We're going round two, and I'm in my pajamas. Let's get it. In the early 2000s, there was this guy, and he became a really big deal. I mean, so big in fact, a revolution started amongst young men who felt disenfranchised with society. Whether or not it was because they felt they couldn't attract women or they just lacked the self-confidence to succeed in life, this dude's social media presence motivated millions of people. Aziz Shavershian became known as Zyzz. He was like a social media influencer before there was a thing such as a social media influencer. And I know I'm in my pajamas wearing a beanie, but don't mock me. But like such great stories with this meteoric rise of success, they are usually followed with the inevitable crash. Aziz Shavershian was born in Moscow, Russia back in 1989. Now, Russia at this point was only a few years away from complete disaster. You see, Russia was a part of the USSR, which was the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. In fact, Russia ran it, and there was like 14 other countries around Europe that were part of this USSR. I don't know, like it's before my time. And their headquarters was in Moscow, Russia, and basically the USSR's hierarchy was pretty much made up of Russians. And I guess many people would say the USSR was tightly controlled, but for the commies out there, there was free housing, education and healthcare. That was all provided, and food and utilities were pretty cheap. But the housing provided was usually very small, with many people occupying a single room, and it wasn't a rundown building. I guess you would call a ghetto. The education was really propaganda-led, with them forcing communistic ideals into the young people from a young age. And the healthcare provided in the hospitals usually lacked proper equipment, and medicines needed usually accompanied a very long wait. Also, food and consumer goods were like scarcely in supply. In fact, it was not unusual for people to wait days for a loaf of bread. And if that didn't sway you, pretty much everybody had to work. The government owned all the businesses, so they'd just assign jobs to people, and it didn't really matter what you studied, you'd be on the factory line with everybody else. And if you decided that wasn't good enough and you didn't comply, well, pretty severe punishments were dished out. I can already hear the protest signs hitting the pavement. So this was life for Aziz, his older brother Syed, and their two parents. But on Christmas in 1991, everything they knew was about to come crashing down. And it's due to many factors. I mean, political corruption, where party members themselves were living like kings and the general public were living like peasants. It was rampant. There was military overspending on tanks and aircrafts. I think they said something like 25% of their GDP was going to the military, while grocery stores had empty shelves. There was also growing nationalism in the 14 other countries, because that was sort of like, it was run by Russia, so they're like, you know, we want our independence. And although the media was like tightly controlled in the USSR, it was like propaganda films, like we're the best, there was a booming black market where Western movies and music started getting smuggled in, and people would watch it in the privacy of their own home, and they'd be like, oh, look at the freedoms they have. Man, I'd love a taste of that. So this is like where the pendulum is starting to swing in the opposite direction, because the people are like, nah bruh, I'm done. So after the USSR collapses, the mafia move in, and this is where the oligarchs come from, because they buy up all the gas and oil and industries around there for like pennies on the dollar. And from here, there's mass unemployment and food shortages and more corruption, and lawlessness followed, and there's just violence in the streets, because you got to remember, people don't have any money and there's no food, so they're just trying to feed their families at this point. And for the communists, yes, it was all the USA, they did it all, I guess. Now, given the fact that Russia's schooling system had a heavy focus on mathematics, science and engineering, Western countries around the world were like, you know what? We should open up a pathway for these people to immigrate here, because they're just going to boost our economy with their skills. These are professionals. And Aziz and Syed's parents just happened to be two of those professionals. Their father was an engineer and their mother was a cardiologist. So it was in 1992, when Aziz was just 4 years old, that the family packed up, left the ruins of Russia, travelled all the way over the other side of the world to live in Sydney, Australia. And Aziz would grow up in Eastwood, which is the next suburb over from another case I covered of Seth Gonzalez, who grew up in North Ryde. These areas were very popular with immigrant families back then because of the close proximity to the city. I mean, they're $1 million areas now, but back then they weren't. So Aziz and his brother Syed, they start attending Marist College in Eastwood, which is an all-boys Catholic school. And Aziz is so good at his education, like he's killing it. Like he becomes the Dux, which means like he's the best dude, like he's the smartest guy there. But although Aziz is achieving everything that he wants in the classroom, his life outside of it just felt very unfulfilling. He was a skinny nerd playing World of Warcraft. Let's just put that out there because it's the fact. He got no chicks, as he would say. He got no chicks, no action. And he just wasn't happy with himself. It would be in his teenage years when his older brother Syed started going to the gym, and this had a major effect on Aziz himself because he's watching his brother go to the gym, and over months and months and months, all the hard work Syed's putting into lifting weights in the gym room is starting to pay off. And not only that is his physique's changing, his personality's changing because he's way more confident. He's just turned himself into this charismatic, young, attractive dude. And Aziz can see this. So Aziz decides from then and there that he's selling his World of Warcraft account. And he must have been pretty good because he got like $500 for it. And he took part of that money and went to Fitness First in Eastwood. And he bought 1 year's gym membership straight off the bat. He's like, here's the cash, I'm coming. And I guess this is where the Zyzz transformation is going to start taking place, because this dude, from this moment, he's building himself to become this icon who's still widely talked about today. But like all success stories, there are always obstacles and adversities that one has to overcome. Aziz, he sucked at weights. In fact, he sucked so bad that his first day at the gym, he had the 20 kilo bar. Remember, this is a skinny 17-year-old kid. He had 5 kilos on either side, and he's going to press out 15 reps. He gets to 14 and he gasses out and the bar lands on his chest. Now this big jacked up dude with muscles out here, he comes racing over and he lifts the bar off with one hand and re-racks it for him. But as embarrassing of a moment that was, something magical happened. Aziz learnt very quickly that these giant muscle-bound guys that you see throwing heaps of plates on the barbell at bench press and maxing out on the cable machines, they were actually pretty cool guys. You see, the gym culture is very accepting, and if you're willing to put in the hard work, they're willing to give you the time of day. So with this little misstep behind him, he's on his way to greatness. He doesn't know it yet, but he's more confident than ever. He's like, I've just won the approval of this giant dude, even though I look like this is the place for me. And I guess Aziz would apply the same mentality to gym working out that he did his schoolwork, because he got real good real quick. He was lifting weights every day, and he's studying diets and supplements and different training routines. He just loved the idea that he could completely transform himself into somebody else given enough period of time in this gym. And within 2 years, he goes from this skinny 6'2" kid to this muscle-bound, shredded, I guess, statue Roman god-esque type dude. And throughout these 2 years, he's pretty active on bodybuilding forums because he's like asking questions and posting progress pictures of himself. And he's not really he's not known in these communities just yet. It would be in 2008 when Aziz would start a YouTube channel called Zyzz.
Bro, I just had to stop the video. It's 7 but my missus said it was hot. Why?
No! God, please, no! And his videos in the beginning were of him flexing and working out at the gym, and he'd overlay the videos with EDM music. It was cranking really loud. But he would move on to doing talking videos, and the character he was representing, I guess, was like the stereotype normal people think of bodybuilders. He was like embellishing it, but it was hilariously funny. And it was motivational too at its core. It was like motivational. But I guess it only like really resonated with a young audience. And by now, the Zyzz persona is really taking off. I just hit the mic. And the stuff he would say in his videos are like, "Are you mirroring?" Which was like this meme that was floating around the internet at the time. It was like very niche, and he took that and popularized it amongst people, and it basically meant, "Are you admiring my physique?" So from the outside, like, people are looking at this dude, seeing this like flamboyant, audacious, cocky dude on the internet, but really he's like trolling heaps of people, and he's like constantly posting pictures of himself at music festivals with all these hot women, and he's telling people, "I'm living the dream." And he'd say things like, "I'm not the biggest, but I look the best." And to his trolls, he would say, "If you hate me, you're just mad because you ain't me." But again, like, his core messaging of his video is like super motivational, because he'd say like, "We're all gonna make it, bruh. The world is yours." And I guess it's like a throwback to like when he first started going to the gym and he had that little mishap with the barbell and that giant bodybuilder come over and lifted it off, you know, because he realized then and there that he was accepted by these people. So he was very, at his core, very accepting of others. And I guess like the messaging that he was doing, like at the core of it, not the surface level stuff, but like at the core of it, he's like saying like, "You can do what I've done. Like, I'm no better than you." And that is something a lot of young guys, particularly around that time, it really resonated with them. Again, like, it was something that people looked at him and he's saying, "This is achievable. You just need to put in the work." And his fans, like, he's getting a lot of followers from all over the world now, and they're attributing Zyzz as the motivation they needed to get off their butts and go to the gym and transform their lives. And they're thanking this guy, because I guess they're pulling chicks too. And while all of this is going on, the Muzza subculture is making a dramatic shift. Now, the Muzza community in Australia is a subculture of young guys, usually second generation immigrants, usually like Middle Eastern and that, but not always. And the culture back then, well, before Zyzz, was they'd cruise around in hotted up cars. So you'd see like Canary Yellow, Kermit the Frog Green RX2s and 3s, and they'd just cruise around and they'd have giant subwoofers and be blaring music. And you'd see them on like George Street in Sydney at like 2 a.m, hooning up and down. And they were always at car shows. But after Zyzz went viral, the Muzza community, who were still into modifying cars, they had shifted towards modifying their bodies. And you'd see these dudes at music festivals. They're all jacked up and tanned, wearing little shorts, and they'd be dancing, and they always had girls around them. I remember a music festival back in 2010. I was there with my friends, and there was a group of girls standing next to us. And one of the girls was telling her friend that this guy she was seeing, who was a Muzza, I think she was seeing him, he had a friend that they were going to introduce the girl to, and she was like, "Is he huge?" Chicks loved it. I don't know. And it was at these music festivals that Zyzz would be found all over the country. I mean, in some instances, he was getting flown out there. And again, he's dancing with beautiful women, and he's getting all these pictures taken, and he's posting it to his socials. And his social media accounts are now ballooning to like, you know, over 500,000, which back then was unheard of. So Zyzz's star is most certainly rising, and so are the opportunities that are coming his way. He would actually appear as an extra on the Underbelly series, The Golden Mile, in 2010. But his fame would really skyrocket when Channel 7's Today Tonight show interviewed him for a segment that was on Sydney's gym and party culture, which they tried to crack the code, I guess, on the whole Muzza thing that was going on. But in the background of all this fame, he's written this motivational bodybuilding book. He becomes a brand ambassador for like a supplement company. So he's really like pushing his Zyzz brand like to the sky, I guess. I don't know. But the fame that he gained, he quickly resented. I mean, very quickly. Everywhere he went, people wanted pictures with him. They wanted to talk to him. And he even admitted that in the early days when all this was happening, he loved the attention. He was like, "This is great." But after a while, he was just having like 500 people come up to him at a music festival wanting to take a picture with him, because he's like the Muzza icon. And his brother Syed, who would call himself Chest Bra, he would go on to tell reporters later on that around this time, Zyzz rarely left the house, and it was due to his anxiety he had of going outside and constantly being pestered by people. So when he did leave the house, he usually had 2 or 3 people with him. He would also take to social media and talk about the frustrations of just walking around the shopping center and having people yell out some of his slogans like, "You mirrorin' and come at me, bro." Come at me, bro! You see, Zyzz was very far removed from Aziz the person. Zyzz was just a persona, an embellished caricature of the stereotype of what mainstream people think of bodybuilders. Aziz himself, the dude behind the persona, was actually a shy, quiet, very smart guy, and he was very eager to succeed in life. But things would take a nasty turn when his brother, Syed, his older brother, would be arrested for steroid distribution. And he would go on to be charged, and the articles written about Syed's arrest would always have Zyzz's picture because he was the more famous brother, even though he had nothing to do with steroid distribution. Now, Aziz never denied using anabolic steroids back in the day. Like, he even posted about it on these bodybuilding forums. But that's like a far cry from selling it. So at this point, Aziz decides that this online persona, this Zyzz character, has to go. He's done with it, and he takes to social media to tell his fans.
I am sad to announce that I have officially finished with training, festivals and being Zyzz. I want to move my life in other directions and have found myself far too involved in a lifestyle with no genuine substance, meeting far too many fake people, girls who, if I didn't look the way I did, would have never given me the time of day. Time to get back to studying. There's more to life than partying.
It would be only 4 months later, in August of 2011, when Aziz would take a trip to Thailand. This trip he would never come back from. With everything that was happening around him in Australia, I guess to Aziz this was a much needed vacation of sorts to just get away from everything. But in the weeks leading up to him taking this trip, he was complaining of feeling tired and having shortness of breath, but he notched it up to just stress maybe from everything that was happening. Because you got to remember, like, to him, like, this whole Zyzz brand is crashing to the ground. But it would be on the 5th of August, Aziz Shavershian would suffer a massive heart attack in a sauna in Pattaya, Thailand, that he would not recover from. And this would bring an end to the life of someone who soared higher than most could ever dream of. I mean, his dedication and his motivational quotes like, "Don't be a sad, get out there and start being a sick. We're all gonna make it, bruh." It really resonated with a younger audience because younger people most certainly could see that he was just trolling and having a good time, and he looked great, so they of course wanted that. But his death did bring about talks of steroid use. You see, Aziz was unfortunately born with an underlying congenital heart condition that nobody knew about, and it's believed that the steroid use exacerbated his condition, which enlarged his heart, which in turn gave him the heart attack. I mean, it's a sad story because, like, the dude from all accounts was amazing. He was super intelligent, he was funny, and he was really on the precipice of changing his life yet again. Like, he was going to go a more professional route, and this is a guy, I have no doubt, would have succeeded in anything that he put his mind to. And it sort of makes me think of celebrities when they say, like, I wish everybody could realize their dreams and aspirations, because they're going to realize when they get there that it's not all that it's cracked up to be. And I think Aziz had that awakening moment. And he had, like, decided months earlier that the Zyzz persona that he had created online just for fun, that motivated millions of people around the world, he decided that Zyzz persona had to die, but unfortunately Aziz would die with him. Thank you for watching the video. If you liked it. If you didn't, down thumb it, just down thumb it. And as always, people, stay safe out there in internet land.